Hey, everybody. This is the November 2022 OLUG meeting. Don't have too many announcements. We will have our holiday party, which will be the first Tuesday, which I'm checking right now, and it says that looks like the 6th. So on December 6th, we'll have our holiday get together here at Rain Exchange, and we'll have some munchies and we'll have a couple of lightning talks, no more than 5 minutes. And, you know, the funnier, the better, I think. So also probably on November 15th or so, I will be sending out a call for speakers for 2023. And I'm certainly looking for, we had a great number of speakers and lots of good content in 2022, except for my Zabbix demo, which I'm going to try again. I hope that we can get a good line of speakers for 2022. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to mute, and Chad Holman's going to take over, and he's going to talk about Tmux, which is something I'm looking forward to. Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, so before we get going, I want to make sure everybody online can hear me.
Yes, Chad is awesome, and I can hear him.
All right, let's get this. I need screen sharing capabilities.
Sorry about that. Stand by.
Okay. All right, hopefully everybody can see my screen, and that screen should have 2 terminals on it for right now. So that's what everybody sees. Let's get some font stuff. Everybody in the room, can everybody read the terminal that says getting started with Tmux?
Yes.
Everybody good with that? All right, so begrudgingly, this should also be, you should learn Tmux now, really now. So let's get started. Let's get into this. So what we're going to cover in here, what is Tmux? What's it good for? Why would you want to use something like this? What are some good use cases for it? And we're going to cover the concepts of Tmux, and that's pretty much sessions, windows, and panes. This is a introduction to Tmux. Tmux is a very large beast. In fact, I'm going to open up with a very good tip that I came up with myself earlier. You want to think VI or Emacs. You're not going to learn Tmux in one sitting. Okay, this is a journey, just like both of those applications and many other applications. So you're going to what I want to relay to everybody in here and online is just learn the basic navigation and getting around in Tmux. Tmux has a lot more with it. It's got a plug-in system. It's got advanced configurations. Let's get started with the basics and then grow from there. So anyway, the outline, we're going to go over some. Looks like I messed up on my slide here. All the stuff on the bottom is from my last presentation. So I guess that's a reminder of a good hook for my last presentation, that Tmux also has a configuration file that can very easily plug into Yadam. So if you haven't seen my Yadam presentation, that was last month, and it's online somewhere.
I'll get it on.
Yep. Okay, so for the most part, I'm going to be in this Tmux window over here. I actually have a Tmux window, but initially I'm going to show you guys some stuff in the other window, and then I'll shift gears and focus just on the one window so that there's less moving back and forth and around. And I'll probably make it a large screen so that everybody can focus on what we have going on here. So the why of Tmux is pretty simple. The why is more productivity on the command line. When you're running in Tmux, you don't need to move your hand from the keyboard to the mouse as much, and you gain some unknown features such as session restoration. So if anybody's been in a scenario where your into a remote machine and you fire off an expensive update and oh my God, I lost connectivity to that remote session. Well, guess what? Tmux preserves that. You can actually SSH back in, reestablish your Tmux session, and it's all back up and running again, provided that machine didn't take a power hit. However, with the plugin system, there's actually a way where there's a periodic save, kind of like a store of like a snapshot of a virtual machine. So it'll try to preserve where you're at. So there could be a restoration there. And I mentioned the other part right there. There's a plugin system. There's other utilities I'll cover towards the end of this. Some of them, such as one called Zellage, also has a plugin system. So Tmux is not the end all be all. This is just like Yadam. There's many different ways to do screen multiplexing, but let's just get started with it. So the basics of Tmux we're going to cover first. Your key no matter what it is. So for example, with the new screen, which is another multiplexer, it is a control A. And in Tmux, it defaults to a control B. Okay. Tmux is configurable. So if you like control A, you can switch it, but that's outside the scope of this particular thing here. So, and the other basics I want to show everybody, and we'll use this other window over here to do this with. Tmux LS shows you any sessions that you have out there that are already established. And with this Tmux LS you see over here, I have one window session that was created today, which happens to be this screen here on the left that has the slide deck going inside of it. If I do a Tmux attach -T0, you'll see that I get right into that same window. So now I got two slide decks going at the same time. And if I do the leader D, I disconnect from that. We know it's still running because I see it over here in the other window, but at Tmux LS will show us it's there. I can have these are called sessions, and I can have as many sessions on a box that I want. Okay. It's not just limitation to one session. So that's the extreme basics. How do I determine if I have sessions? How do I get into sessions, and how do I detach from sessions? Everybody good with that so far? All right, so moving on. So I mentioned the basics, the sessions. So what's the difference here? What are we talking about? So sessions is I type Tmux, I'm in a session. That's it, plain and simple. That session immediately drops you into what's called a window. Okay, so I'm going to focus back over on my right terminal. So if I type Tmux, I'm actually in a brand new session. In fact, if I was to detach from this particular session and type Tmux LS, you see now I have two sessions, correct? So if I Tmux attach -T1, I get back in the session I just came from. So this is a window that I am in. And what's cool about Windows, you have as many of these that memory can handle. Well, we're going to get into this a little bit soon, but leader C creates a new window. Now you didn't see a whole lot go on there, but if I do a leader W, you see that I actually have two windows going on and what's running in each one of these windows. Okay. Think of it like they just slid the window that I was on to the left and dropped me into a new window. So I have that virtual desktop feel going on right now. Okay. And when you talk panes are how you slice up the window. So for example, let's say I fire off an expensive tail. So tail -F var log messages, and I'll probably need to pipe that through. Do I run?
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you. You get var log messages. Home. See there. Okay, let's not do var log messages. Let's do var log message. How about that? So let's say I fire off this expensive thing here. And this is a thing a lot of people run into a lot of time. Anyone who works on Linux probably has a tail going off someplace, and we get very what's nice about Tmux is it saves you from getting window happy. I got to open up another terminal or a tab in a terminal, which I can't stand tabs in terminals, but I got that going there. And the problem I have with tabs is I got to click back and forth between that stuff to see what's going on. Well, in Tmux, if I do a leader double quote, I can slice my window in half, and now my tail's going on top while I'm actually functional on the bottom. This allows me to do more in that one terminal because I can see the messages I want to see or my debug output from the application I'm running while I'm testing my compiles and everything in the pane below. So these are panes. Yes, Dave.
Okay, so if you're looking right now, you've got a navigation down pretty far.
Yes.
So I'm in session 1.
Yep.
And what 0 pulling back is the first slide.
So 0 bash with the asterisk shows the window that I'm actually in.
Right.
Okay, so I'm in 0 because I see the asterisk.
Okay.
1 bash is the other window that's out there. And then everything in here is customizable too. Keep that in mind. So these are just the default settings that Ubuntu comes out with, and probably for the most part, most systems. Fun fact, if you're familiar with kickstarting Red Hat, that is a Tmux window that's sitting in front of there. And yes, you can slice and dice that screen and examine your system while it's installed.
Bruce is, can you scroll back? If you want to see it or?
Scroll back in the slide deck.
No.
Yes, you can scroll, but it's slightly different than using a mouse wheel. We'll get to scrolling in a little bit. Okay. So these are, so right now we've covered the basic concepts of how to get in and out of a session, how to determine what sessions you have available to you. Everything can be named. I think that's slightly out of scope of this, but I will show you guys commands to name things. And I showed you the basic concepts of what the session is, and the session is basically comprised of windows and panes, if that makes sense. And yes, if anybody's asking, you can slice and dice the window vertically as well as horizontally. Okay. So here are some of the use cases. Some of these are already covered. So you remote in to do updates over SSH. Okay. When you do this, so there's also a concept out there called Tmux and Tmux. I don't want to cover that right now. It is a thing that you can do, because think about it. If I'm on the host, I may already be in Tmux. I fire off SSH to get to the remote system. I want to be in Tmux on that remote system. And the reason why is that disconnect, especially if you know it's not a stable connection, you're going to want to re-SSH in, reattach that, and your update will still be going on. Where under typical scenarios, your update's dead in the water. Now you got to recover and go through, like on Ubuntu, like a depackage -- configure -A or something like that to restore where you're at in that. Remote anything over SSH really is a good reason to use this. You get a clutter-free desktop environment because you can limit yourself down to one terminal. You don't need to have terminal after terminal after terminal popping up on your screen and losing which terminal am I working in right now. You can keep everything organized in that one terminal. And then console only systems. This is a big one for me. There are plenty of, I'll mention this a little bit later, but just to cover or touch on it right now, it's kind of like a drop of sugar in the ear, if you will. There are tools out there like Tmux and Terminator. These are graphical terminals, and they all have slice and dice your window capabilities. Well, why would I not want to use those? Well, for one, when you SSH into a box, you have to redirect your swipe back. Well, X is great, but with Wayland, that's a little bit more complex. And then if you happen to walk up to a terminal and it's non-graphical, guess what? You can't use those utilities. You're dead in the water already. So Tmux is a one shoe fits all sizes kind of thing, where you can just SSH in, or I walk up to a terminal and fire it off, and I can do this multiple thing. Another good example, Dave, you're probably familiar with this. Somebody walks up and gives you SSH access or sudo access to root, but yet you need another window that has root, right? And now you got to track that person down again. Well, with something like Tmux, You can, once you get the root, you fire out Tmux, and now you got as many root windows as you need in that session. You don't have to go bother that person or track them down or find them. I ran that doing on the job before. Yeah, some of these slides are a little bit out of order. Yeah, getting started. Yeah, type Tmux. In fact, typing Tmux is the best way to get used to doing Tmux. And immediately right off the bat, you gain the session restoration part of it, because you see me do that with the detached and reattach. Okay, it's the same thing. If you know, if you come over here and accidentally kill this whole window, I'm going to do it right now. So I'm going to hit the X and I'm going to say, yeah, go ahead and close that. Well, if I come over here and open up a new window and bring this over and type Tmux LS, we see that we still have a session running out there. And if I attach -T to session 1, bam, I'm right back up in my tri-split window and I have 2 windows available to me. Okay, so this works with BI. This works with anything you can possibly think of that you're doing in there. In the end, it's all about the leader key, which, like I said, the default on Tmux is Control B, and Control B question mark gives you a help screen. We'll get into this fancy thing that I just did here, but this is literally like a cheat sheet to everything going on in Tmux, which will help you navigate and build your skill set and your command line as you move forward, learning how to navigate. Again, keep in mind, it's like BI or Emacs. You're not going to learn it all in one day. So a lot of this I've already covered. This is kind of where this is going to go really fast. So questions are really good, because when you think about it, Tmux is all about session windows and panes. So getting started from bash is simple as Tmux, but if you want to name a session, it's Tmux new -S and give it a name. So if anybody wants to see that, I'll detach Tmux new -S demo 1. And now you see that instead of at the very bottom in the highlighted bar, instead of saying 0, some number, it actually says demo 1. If I detach and do a Tmux LS, we see that as demo 1. So this is really good from the programming perspective. For example, you may have, if you do a lot of stuff with configuration management tools like Ansible or Puppet, you may have a name session called Ansible or Puppet that has a specific layout of your windows and panes, where in another Tmux session that you're doing, say, C compilations in, you may have a different layout of windows and panes for navigation in that compilation environment. We covered all this here, you know, so starting is Tmux, listing is LS, attaching is with a attach -T with a name or a number. And then killing a session, I didn't even know this because I used to kill sessions with a Control D. So whenever I was getting in my items here, so let me attach back to session 1. If I wanted to break out of this pane here in the lower right, I would just Control D out of it. And boom, that's dead. And I'd work my way all the way backwards until all my windows and sessions were killed. Like I said, Tmux is a growing thing. You learn as you go. So that was my way of killing it, is like my way 20 years ago, learning how to delete a line in BI. It was hit X and continue to hit X until the line was gone, because I was building on top of the commands I wanted to know just to get my job done before I learned the fancier commands of doing a DD. So these are the same things here. So right in here, or right also.
This is being recorded.
That was a bad echo. Where's that coming from?
Everybody
All right.
muted.
Okay. Was that a question? Okay. So anything that you see here in the commands as we move forward with these, if it says Tmux, we're probably outside of the Tmux session. Okay, if it says anything else like leader, then we're inside the Tmux session, and that's how those commands work. So these kill sessions and kill servers are done from a detached state. And then, like I said, from Tmux on the sessions to detach, you do a leader, which I have here with the angle bracket L, angle bracket D, that allows you to detach from your session. Windows are pretty simple. To create a new window, it's a leader C. If you want to list your windows, it's a leader W. And navigation is simply you either jump to it or you do the previous with a next and previous with an N and a P, or you can jump right to the window if you're familiar with it. So to show you what that's like, back over in this other window, if we do a leader C, we get a new window. If we do a leader W, we see the laundry list of everything going on in our current thing. And the newer versions show you a little bit in this bottom window of what's going on in that window. And then from any window, if you do a leader N, we walk through the windows, and a leader P walks the other direction. So next and previous. And if I want to jump to a specific window, I'm currently on, let's see here. Let's go to leader 1. So I'm now on leader 1, and we know I'm on leader 1 because when you look at the 1 in the bottom bar, it actually has an asterisk after it with the word bash. So that's simple navigation. Panes, these are defaults. They're good to know because they are configurable. Splitting vertical split is with a percent. So think of a line and the 2 circles. I want 2 windows split. Horizontal though is double quotes. So let's walk through those real quick. So leader percent looks like that. Did that in the wrong window. I'm going to control D out of that. Jump over here. Sorry about that, everybody. And then I'm going to split the other direction like that. We see me do this. What I did not cover is navigation. I didn't talk about how do you navigate around these panes. So this will be a good thing here. So let me get to a more expensive. Well, let's. All right, there we go. We're back on. Does that answer your question? Yeah. All right. So as I was saying before the crash, where I type echo hello, you'll notice a nice green series of lines in lieu of the wider lines that separate the other windows. And that helps you tell you where you're focused in your panes. And as I show over here with the navigation, up, down, left, and right is leader arrows. Okay, it's pretty easy to navigate. So from where I'm at, if I want to go up, it's a leader up arrow. And you'll notice that the green bar now goes across the entire top box as far as what we can do with it in that top box. So it's not completely surrounding it, but by visualization, I should be able to tell, oh yeah, I'm on the top box. A leader down arrow takes me down. And there's a timeout value in these leader keys that if you go leader down, down, it'll take, but if you do leader down, down, the second down might not take because you timed out. Does that make sense to everybody? But that's the basic navigation. And then I did this really fancy thing earlier that I told you I'd cover. So I'm going to go to the echo hello. As you can tell, some of these windows can get kind of small, and you can resize these things and everything. But maybe like in a tail example, or you're going through more output, you want to see something a little bit bigger and wider. There's no reason in Tmux to create a whole new window, start up a whole new tail. All you gotta do is do a leader Z, and it's called zoom. And it just zooms into that pane. And in the lower bar, you'll notice I get a capital Z telling me I'm zoomed in. And now I'm inside basically a pane, and I can do whatever I want inside this pane and do directory listings and whatever. And if I zoom back out with the same leader Z, you'll see my directory listing still there. So I'm just zooming in and out of that pane. So at that, when it comes to learning Tmux, this is where I want to stop. Okay, because otherwise it's too much information and it could scare you away from Tmux. My goal here was to get people excited about Tmux and learn how to use it. It's available on most Linux systems. Most modern Linux systems come with Tmux already pre, at least in their repositories, where you can just do a DNF install or an apt-get install and get Tmux there. What I'm covering now is I want to kind of show you guys some interesting things about Tmux as far as like future possible talks, which I would call intermediate / advanced. And this is just more, call it icing on the cake. So Tmux has a plugin system. And the other thing I want to do there is talk about plugins with the admin and talk with tmux.com. So all of it's with the tmux.com. And the plugin system, which ties into tmux.com, will actually allow you to bring in these plugins. And some of the plugins, like I said, are things where you can, it'll do like periodic saves of the environment. There's other tools that I'm not sure if I mentioned in here, that one's called like Tmuxinator. And what Tmuxinator does, if I'm talking about the right tool, because there's 2 or 3 of them that do the exact same thing, in a YAML file, you can say, this is the way I want my session to look. So these are the number of windows I want. These are where I want my panes established with all those windows. And instead of saying Tmux and getting, you can type all this out if you wanted to, but you just say Tmuxinator go. And next thing you know, bam, you're in this session that could have 10 windows with certain windows sliced and diced every way. All of them have names. So it gives you like the ability to do pre-established sessions. Getting into some other things here. Let's talk about some alternatives now. So these are not alternatives. And what I mean by not alternatives is they're actually using Tmux. Okay. So there's a really cool tool called Teammate. And Teammate is, I want you to think of Teammate like, help me, what's that name of that tool? Graphical, help you out remotely. Anybody? TeamViewer, yes. I want you to think TeamViewer. But what Teammate does is Teammate allows, for example, Dave, if you needed some help, you could say, hey, Chad, you got time for a Teammate session? I can say, sure. You open up your terminal and you type Teammate, and it tells you what to send me for either a read write or read only session. You send that code to me and it's just an SSH code. And when I SSH to that address, I land in just your terminal and we're on Tmux where we can slice and dice the window. And if it's read only, all I can do is see what you're doing and talk to you over the phone about it. But if it's a read write session, we can do pair programming over the internet right on top of your desktop. Biobu is a wrapper that came out that gives a standard series of settings that somebody on Ubuntu started, and it's a wrapper around screen in Tmux, but it's effectively Tmux. But if you type Biobu, bam, you land in this like pre-configured Tmux, and you're up and running. And then there's Wemux. Wemux makes basically pair programming easy. So for example, if we don't have the ability to do Teammate, but we're on the same network and you SSH into my terminal, I might leverage Wemux where we can pair program and we makes the pair programming a little bit easier, if that makes sense. Yeah. There are alternatives though, and here they are. So Zellage, I brought that up. Zellage is written in Rust and it's got a plugin system. And a couple others that I found were like MTM, can't think of what it stands for. Minimal terminal multiplexer, I believe. Screen is probably the granddaddy of them all, GNU Screen, and Wes Term. And then there's plenty of others if you start looking for this stuff. And then graphical, actually these are graphical alternatives right here. Tmux and Terminator, I talked about them. They're really good tools. I love using Tmux on the host, but I never use it to slice and dice the screen. I'm always using Tmux to slice and dice my screen, because if I'm SSH in someplace or I'm going through a console, that's the tool I'm going to use to do it. So I might as well enhance and grow those skills. At that moment, I really don't have a whole lot to say. This, again, introductory course. Anyway, Q&A. So Dave, I saw your hand pop up.
Yeah, okay, so Bruce has a question that I also have.
Awesome.
So what if, you know, the
Cluster
standard, the standard, terminal that I use is secure CRT.
Okay.
Yeah, secure CRT has a little, you can pop up little 13 settings. And then you can type down the bottom that actually echoes to all.
I would call that an advanced intermediate thing with Tmux.
Can you repeat the
So
question?
Bruce
Yes.
wants to know, you type in all the pages at one time.
Yep.
All the pages.
Yeah, so the question is, from both, Dave Thacker and Bruce, is if I, for example, in this window on my right, which is on everybody else's right, if I wanted to type the same thing in all these windows, yes, you can do that. There is a Tmux command that you can issue. I believe it's called sync panes. And as soon as you establish it, whatever you type in one pane shows up in every other pane. So if I was to, in this example here, if I was to get rid of this one here, and let's say I was SSH'd into 3 different systems and I want to kick off an upgrade on all 3 of them, I could issue that command and it would be, as I type in one, it would type in the others. And I could hit enter, type in my passphrase, it would be basically copied to the others. And I would have 3 simultaneous updates going on at the same time.
Okay.
But to me, these are more the intermediate thing.
Right.
And real quick, I'm going to follow back on something else. Bruce was talking about something about scrolling. So in this little tiny window here, I'm going to open up. That's probably not the best way to do it. I'm going to tail out. That's the password. To me, this is a similar advanced kind of intermediate topic, scrolling, because this gets also into cut and pasting. But if I do a leader open square bracket, notice how I get this like 0/6 on the side in the upper right hand corner of the lower window.
Yes.
Okay, if I start hitting the scroll button or my up arrow, look what it's doing. I'm basically scrolling this data. And then if I hit the escape key, Control C, I'll eventually get out of it. Another quick one that I wanted to show you guys, if you're splitting the window and you get windows that look like this, where they're really narrow, if you do like a leader escape 2, it centers everything up so that there's equal distance between all the panes. I'm not trying to over flood with you guys with commands. I'm showing you what you can do with Tmux. These are, I never knew how to center screens till probably 2 years ago, and I've been playing with Tmux for at least 6 to 10 years. So again, it's a journey. You learn the commands as you go along. My 2 cents is start off with learning how to do the navigation and stuff like that, and then build on top of those commands as you move along. You can do, I mean, it gets pretty crazy what you can do with this. You're splitting the screen. That starts to get very complex when you start having VI doing its splitting while you're also doing splitting in Tmux. But it's all possible, and it all adds to the power of what you can do in the one terminal window, giving you that more productivity, but you got to grow into that. You're not going to be able to do it tomorrow.
So do you have a favorite use case?
I do. I got a couple favorite use cases. So my first and probably most favorite is just typing Tmux, because Tmux itself, like I said, if for whatever reason I got to kill my terminal or whatever, I can restore whatever it is I'm working on. So if I'm in the middle of a VI session, I don't have to worry about losing work. I just re-VI it. I love using Tmux when I SSH into remote systems, because I get that extra bit of safety that if I get disconnected for some reason, I can get that back. Now, there's another tool out there called Mosh. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it, but it's basically a SSH alternative. I think it's the best way to phrase it. Mosh has to be installed on both systems, but like when you're at coffee shops and you're changing, if your IP address changes because of DHCP leasing, or you pick up from one coffee shop and go somewhere else, Mosh allows you to restore your SSH a lot better than SSH by itself. And then when you add that to Tmux, so you SSH in with Mosh and you type Tmux, you just get extra protections while you're doing your things.
That says. Question about Tmux.
Unfamiliar with Tmux tutor,
But it also says.
but I am familiar with the Vim tutor.
Great economy.
I'm unfamiliar with Tmux tutor, but it sounds like VI Learn, and VI Learn is a great tool to, especially if you have new people coming on board and they don't know VI. You throw VI Learn at them, and VI Learn will pop them right into basically a text file that they start reading, and as they read it, it starts telling them like 6 or 7 lessons, and it's a really good way to get somebody familiar with VI. And guess what? They can rerun those lessons as many times as they want, and I would assume Tmux tutor is probably something similar to that.
Yeah, Vim tutor is the corollary.
Okay, sure, fair enough.
You wanna read Bruce's question?
Okay, Bruce question, Bob. Bruce, why do you say Linux instead of Linux?
Just like everybody else says Linux instead of Linux, it's 50-50.
We gotta fill out the percentage.
Yep.
Can you repeat the question?
Why?
Yeah, so the question was, why Linux and not Linux? And I think it's just because, when I got started with it, it was called Linux. So, and I think that's the same with a lot of people. It's like 50-50. There's half the world says Linux, half the world says Linux, and it will always be that way. You know, some people say Windows, some people say wind blows, same reason.
Other questions, audience?
Thanks for a great talk, Chad, from Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Do you use a .tmux RC file?
No, it's a tmux.conf file. So just to give you guys I guess more icing on top of the cake scenario, I'm in a virtual machine here because I wanted to go with the defaults that Tmux prevails. But let me show you guys something that can be talked about later on if you guys really want more intermediate and advanced sessions going on. I want you to look at this window. Look at the bash prompt, or at the very bottom of this particular terminal here. This is an example of a Tmux configuration file. So pi.tmux.conf. This is what this looks like. It can get pretty, bring this up here. It can get pretty scary by looking at it, but there's some easier cut and paste options going on here with Xclip. I believe I'm attempting to do some mouse integration in this. Tmux doesn't work with a mouse unless you tell it to work with a mouse. Because even though I tried it away from a mouse while I'm in Tmux, sometimes you still go to the mouse because of cut and paste and things like that. So this is really just an attempt to stay away from that. And this basic configuration file here presents this window you see here. So instead of some of these defaults, like for example, over here where you see the date with the time with the YATM1, which is really the host name and the date. Well, the date's already everywhere else. So what I have here is I have the load averages coming in with the host name right by it. In the parentheses, I think that depends on the type of system I'm on. I'm highlighting more in the middle of what the bash prompt is. So I don't have this whole solid bar on the bottom. I wanted this more minimalistic look. And I put the over on the other side with the name of the session there. So that's the initial part of this, but it's the same thing. I can slice and dice the window and you start to see what's going on there. And at tmux.conf, if you think about this going to my talk from last month and you tie this in with Yadam, you can check that into your favorite dot file manager. So what that means is, as you work on your tmux.conf and your configuration for Tmux, that follows you around. So now you have that same look and feel with Tmux everywhere you go. And the same can be said with Screen. Screen has some sort of an RC file. I think it's Screen RC actually. And Zellage and all these other ones, they usually have some sort of configuration file. All of them can follow you around wherever you want to go. And then some of them, Tmux is I think Tmux is I mentioned in the meeting last month of XDG compliance. I think Tmux falls on the one that's a partial compliance. I'd have to double check. I know you can set an environment variable that says this is where my Tmux config file lives, but I could be wrong. Maybe they fully support it and you can just move .tmux config into .config/tmux config. But that's the name of the configuration file is Tmux config. Which I don't have in that window, I have in this window up here. Back in on it. That's what it is. And there's plenty of books and guides out there, but again, this starts getting into your intermediate advanced configurations, which I'm trying not to overwhelm people with. What else do we got? Is that it? All right, sweet. Happy Tmux.
Oh, no, that's like 45 minutes.
Well, we had a delay.
Not too much. You want to say anything before proper recording?
Lord God, have your blessings.
Can you mute yourself?
Yes, I can. As soon as I get out of this. Give me 1 second.
You can stop the screen.
Oh, you know what? My Zoom crashed.
No, it's a
Oh, there it is. I see it.
Okay. Thanks, Chad, for the talk. If you'd like to have more advanced Tmux presentations, let me know on the mailing list or on Discord. Remember that our next meeting will be Tuesday, December 6th. We'll have some lightning talks and some holiday munchies. Watch out for our call for 2023 speakers later this month, and have a great evening and a great November. I'll talk to you next month. Bye-bye.